Day one was my warm-up day, my day to check things out. Just a nice gentle walk along the seacoast, and then cutting across the moors, heading towards the hostel for the night. So why walk across Wales? In Thoreau's essay Walking, he says that the word saunter comes from alla santiere, meaning those people who go walking to the Holy Land. To him, walking is a sort of pilgrimage, a sort of spiritual thing. However, there is the runner in me, part of me that thinks in terms of exercise. And I think to myself, maybe it is all about endorphins. Endorphins make you feel good, they give you a runner's high. But there are a lot of easier ways of getting endorphins besides walking across mountains. You can just go down to the gym and pump iron for a while, and you'll feel better. Or maybe it has something to do with beauty and nature and things like that. You know, you are out there on these gorgeous sunny days. You see seascapes and landscapes, you see mountains and blooming flowers. But you know, all of those things could have been seen from a car window. You didn't have to go out there and do the walking. Or maybe it is that it's an adventure. To me, an adventure is something that you do that might go wrong. You might have rainy days, you might have cold days, you might lose your trail, you might have blisters, and you might just be plain miserable. But then again, it could be gorgeously great. You might find a view or a story that you didn't expect, and that is part of an adventure too. Today I'll be getting into the mountains, starting over the Carnithae. The Carnithae is a range which forms the northern part of Snowdonia. In Wales there are a group of mountains referred to as the 3,000 footers, 15 in total, and the Carnithae includes 6 of them. 3,000 feet may not seem like much of a challenge to people who have hiked in higher mountains, but these all start at sea level. So 3,000 feet can be pretty challenging. I won't be hiking them all in one day. That's called the 3,000 foot challenge from Snowdonia to Foss. In fact, I'm going to be doing them in the reverse order and stretching it over 3 days, as well as taking in a few side trips. What makes hiking in Wales so appealing to me is the wide open vistas. In many respects, these hills and mountains are about as rugged as the Whites in New Hampshire or the Adirondacks in New York. They rise the same number of feet above the surrounding area. But the difference is they're not covered with trees, just wide open spaces. Of course, today that means that I'm exposed all the time to wind. I have to hold on to my hat. But with those vistas, I can watch the weather rolling in, climb the slopes, and cresting the ridgelines. As I said before, this range is called the Carnithae. Carnith, the singular, is a mountain which ends in a pile of rocks or cairn. There are 3 peaks that have Carnith as part of their name: Carnith Gwelelyn, Carnith Llythwelyn, and Carnith Daffyn. Llythwelyn, or Llewellyn as we'd say in English, was the last independent prince of Wales before King Edward's conquest. The other 2 peaks are named after his daughter and uncle. This is called Ilan, or the Helen. It is named after a princess from around the year 400, who eventually married the commander of the Roman garrison in Carnarvon, a town not far from here. That commander went back to Rome and eventually became the emperor. This area is riddled with stories and legends. I'm descending now to Llyn Agwen, or Lake Agwen, near where I will be spending the night. It is also where Excalibur, King Arthur's sword, was returned to the Lady of the Lake. In a straight line, it is less than half a dozen miles to tonight's hostel. What that means is that I can meander a lot. First, I'll take a run southeast over Tryfan and down to E Foal, and then back west and north along the Glider Range. Finally, a drop into the Lumbaris Valley and a walk up to Lumbaris Pass. Today I'm going to learn a lot about coombs. That's the unique word in Welsh with no vowels, C, W, M. But first, Tryfan. I climbed Tryfan with my family when I was a boy, and have always wanted to return, since in my youth it was such a dramatic event. I fell off the top of a 100-foot cliff that day, but that is a different story. The apex of Tryfan is thickly shrouded in mist, and I was uncertain I had reached the peak until I saw Adam and Eve, two monoliths, which today were adorned by a gull, that crown that peak. The distinguishing feature of the Glider Range is that when viewed from the south, they appear as giant hills or fells. They rise up 3,000 feet in about a mile, but most of that is grasslands and boggy moors, pastures for the hardy Welsh sheep. However, it is the north slopes which make these mountains. Ages ago, glaciers carved great hollows out of these fells. In the Alps, these bowls would be called cirques, the amphitheaters of the gods. But in Wales, they are given the humble name cwm. In fact, I think it is a credit to the mountaineering tradition of Wales that the cirque southwest of Mount Everest is called the Western Cwm. Some of these places have acquired English names as well. The head of Cwm Idwal is called Twelve Du, which translates as the Black Hole, but in English it is usually known as the Devil's Kitchen, a rock face famed for climbing. Cwm Cynefin, which means the place for shearing or fleecing sheep, is also known as the Nameless Cwm. So walking this ridgeline means pastures on the left, sheer dizzying drops to the right, if only I could see through the mist. Today is my longest walk, about 30 kilometers or over 18 miles. However, there is only 3 peaks left in my 3,000-foot ramble: Kribgok, Carnegie, and Snowdon. And then it is time to head to the sea and Tremedog. If climax is reaching the peak, the spire, the high point, then I guess Snowdon would qualify. If climax is part of a story, and a walk really is a type of story, then it is supposed to be followed by an anticlimax and a quick conclusion. And this story kind of follows that trend. Kind of. This walk isn't really a well-designed story. It ends up with a few small climaxes in all the wrong places. In fact, in places that took this walker by surprise. This is Kribgok. Kribgok in Welsh means red crest. There really is an impressive spire, but what's most famous about this is the razor edge that comes away from it. A lot of the time, I kept my hands on the edge and looked for footing. This mountain made me feel more like a mountaineer than anything so far. The last kilometer climbing was hands and feet the entire way. A lot of good handholds, but it is always necessary to grab something. As you can see, the rock is all spiky and so forth. The actual summit is a real spire. Carnegie is a lonely peak wrapped in the thickest of fog, so it is a bit of a surprise to come off this desolate peak and plunge into the foot and rail traffic headed up Snowdon. And then there is the summit, with people lining up to have their pictures taken at the top. The summit house for meat pies and cog railroads. In the end, it took me 48 hours to traverse all 3,000 footers. And then the long climb back down to the sea. One of the curious side stories of the day involved this helicopter. It was circling Cwmtregelyn, apparently training for search and rescue, when it suffered engine trouble and became the focus of a real rescue mission itself. They managed to land on a spire called Arin before catching on fire. Everyone was safe, but the mountain was soon swarmed with rescue crews.
This is Bear Birth.
To celebrate completing the mountains, I stopped for tea and Begalert. But half of my mileage for the day still lies in front of me. Down the Angler's Way, following the Avon Glassland, past Curious Railroad and the Osprey Sanctuaries, and finally to Tremedog near the sea. This last day was designed as a bit of a cool down after the mountains. It is a gentle dozen miles walk along the seacoast to Harlech, through small ports and along the estuary.
And that is Harlech.